So first when we arrived to San Francisco, we actually stayed in San Francisco. We lived in San Francisco for a couple of years. And if you remember, we talked about my husband and my baby boy, and we just landed in San Francisco with one backpack and very little cash and no friends, no family, no sponsors, no one. So yeah, that's how we started in San Francisco. So it was super interesting. And you already know about my background based on our prior interview. So coming from communistic country and during Soviet Union, we were pretty much deprived from everything. And it was cultural shock for me because here I am. I'm in America, and I'm a product of Soviet Union. And now I need to learn new language. Now I need to learn new culture. And everything around me is so different. My first impression was a lot of homeless. Homeless was like, I just couldn't figure out, how is it possible? America is such a richest country, wealthy country. How come they're not taking care of their own people? How come they have so many homeless? I guess back then I didn't realize the political system, government system, didn't realize that actually it's a freedom what they're receiving. They could be on the streets if they want to, or they could be in any facilities they want to and choose whether they want to work or whether they don't want to work. So it kind of represented later for me as freedom, symbol of freedom. And another idea of being the first few months when we arrived, it actually was during Halloween. And Halloween, we never heard about this holiday. And I have my baby boy I'm holding, and I see a lot of kids dressed up these weird costumes and very scary costumes. And more scary you act and supposed to be cool, apparently. We didn't know anything about this holiday. And we were so confused. And remember, Jake, I told you we had no friends, family, or sponsors. We had no information unless you want to just grab the stranger and ask tons of questions. You know, we're both from Russia, and we pretty much were like, what is going on in this country? How is this something? It was like second months when we were living in San Francisco, and we saw that. We're like, this is pretty scary. We got scared of even leaving our super horrible apartment where we landed pretty much. And so it took us a while to understand it actually holiday. And the way I started, our apartment was super, super bad. We couldn't afford much there. That was another thing. Living in San Francisco first few months, we got a studio full of cockroaches day and night, and it's the only thing we could afford, and it was months to months kind of a rent. And with limited money we had, we were looking for job constantly. And that apartment kind of was giving me motivation to get out with my baby boy and just stroll around and meeting in the park with different moms and running into different like Russian-speaking people. They explained to me about the holiday, the Halloween holiday. I like, oh, okay. And then lots of questions. Why do you have this type of holiday? Why it can't be like something exciting and different type? But they like, no, it's just fun. It's kind of like those new things was super like new to us. And that was super bringing a lot of differences in culture where we never anticipated and we didn't hear about. And in a few months, employment really kicked our butts. We had hard time finding job, and we knew from day number one, as soon as we landed, we needed to find job. We needed physically to support ourselves. We needed to get food. We landed with one backpack. We had nothing, and we really needed to start. And we had a baby with us, so. My husband, we learned a lot. We didn't know about the standards for interview for any jobs. I don't know how it is now. I've been employed for so long. I already forgot, Jake, how you're supposed to dress up. Is it the same standards like it used to be? Back then in America, for any jobs you apply, apparently you need to wear a jacket. Is it the same now? Wearing jacket?
Depends on the job, depends on how formal or informal the job is, how,
Yeah, I see it.
Depends on various things, but yeah, there are still some jobs you need to wear a suit jacket for.
Yeah, I see. Okay, well, this wasn't really exciting job. It was cleaning job. That's the only thing we could, were able to find. So my husband went to the interview several times, and even for these jobs with minimum wage, they would never call him. They would never call him back, and we got so confused. How are we supposed to support each other? There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and then. He went to this one interview, and who interviewed him was Hungarian lady. And I think hearing the accent, and she was speaking with an accent, she kind of hinted him saying, next time you go to interview, wear your jacket. That's how we learned about jacket. All the time he was going and I was going for interviews. I didn't speak any English. For me, was there a lot of challenges to even get any kind of job. But for him, he spoke English, and for him, not understanding why he's not getting hired for even like we're talking about cleaning jobs. We're talking about, he had undergrad degree, but obviously new country, your degree is, we were just not well educated. Didn't know how to merge into society, American society. So we were just trying whatever is out there, we need to get a job. So when she told him about jacket, we're like, okay, now we have dilemma. We have no money for jacket. How are you gonna wear? When she said, at least we figured out, okay, well, now you need to wear a jacket. That's the reason you're probably not getting job. And then, it took us a long time to get a jacket, used one or whatever. And finally he got a job, and finally I got a job. It was super. Again, there was a immigrant family from Hungary. We met at the park. I met at the park, and he was making computer chips, and as his business, super hardworking man. And he said, if you want to work for me, I can just bring stuff to you. You can work from home, so you can work on this computer chips. So that's how I started. It was wasn't something exciting to do, but it was a job that we really desperately needed to feed ourselves and pay rent and live from paycheck to paycheck. So those were the experiences our first few months. And another thing was really interesting to know, we were confused. We rented this apartment. It was, for us, was expensive, but it wasn't expensive because we had no money. The cockroaches, the dirty apartment. I like, how is it possible? How come government is allowing have these type of apartments? So my head was, we were constantly confused because jumping from one communist system where we grew up, where government was taking care of everything and controlled by government system, here we in America, where you pretty much, the concept of someone can own this apartment was kind of a new to us. And yeah, it was a lot of learning curve for us. First few months living in San Francisco. Yeah, that was one of the depressing thing ever because I loved reading. I'm into academics so much. My background is like all about education. It was exciting field for me. Now when you're in a new country, you can't even read. You can't even speak. It's not even you deprive yourself socially, but you're also depriving yourself from the receiving information and reading, and the whole that side of me became really down. And having husband who's Russian as well didn't help much, right? So we didn't have money to buy television. I thought that would be a good source of learning English and talking to people. How do you talk? You just go to park. The only communication I had with moms, like, hi, how are you? How are you? The basic kind of English. And that was my kind of area where I lived, and I didn't see myself learning English. And my husband, when he found job, he would leave, and all day I start like, I need to buy dictionary. I need to learn. Back then, we didn't have, remember, cell phones. We didn't have computers. We didn't have television. I pretty much like would needed to start with physical dictionary, right? So I went and bought, you could buy like Russian to English, English to Russian dictionary. But again, you don't know the pronunciation. You need to make the pronunciation by just reading the word, right? But whether you're reading right or wrong, it's just you got to take a risk and be brave enough to speak up in public. So I would go to grocery store, start with grocery store. Again, hi, how are you doing? That type of thing. And went to the entire grocery store learning about the products, apples. Oh, well, guess what? To learn one word apple, you got million of different type of apples in America. In grocery store, we only had one type of apples in Russia. There's a lot of luxury there, right? But so I started learning English through dictionary, and wasn't progressing well, to be honest with you, because we always spoke Russian in home, and I had no friends, no one to speak English outside of my family. So forcing myself, learning there, here, broken English. One of the challenges I was experiencing, it's to speak up. I was so afraid to say something that it could sound wrong, and it could not be appropriate. In fact, there was an example I want to tell you. When I took my boy to park, the lady had a newborn baby holding baby. And I just fell in love with the baby, and I just kind of like trying to mimic something, say, hi, baby. She's like, she understood I didn't speak English. And as I was practicing the word a hug, right? I want to say, can I hug your baby? I was trying to, back then I thought it was something. Well, I ended up saying hug and hate. Those are two words I was using. And I ended up saying, can I hate your baby? And she's like, what? And she gave me this look, and I'm repeating again the same. That was a big, huge, like PTSD for me. When I decide to speak up and say, be brave, I totally said something wrong, right? So, yeah, English became better and better as I was forcing. I think I just couldn't afford to take English classes. Every English class I checked in community college everywhere, it cost money. We didn't have money. And the only thing we were just work for surviving, living from paycheck to paycheck. So more it took me a long time to start learning English. And for that reason, I actually struggled in the university. Like I graduated from Weber State and I got my master's degree in Webster. So going to undergrad, doing my general classes was super, super challenging for me because I was still using the physical dictionary of going through the class. I never talked to anyone. I didn't know anything about the system, university system in this country. So I don't know whether I answered your question kind of along. I
liked it. It's good.
How did I end up in Utah? So in San Francisco, we finally, we lived there for a couple of years, 2 years, and we met with a couple, older couple. They were just from Clearfield, Utah, Clearfield. And they said they just love San Francisco and they lived in Europe long time. So we kind of like bonded a little bit, and they loved my baby boy. And they would do we met. The first time we met was in park where I was taking my son there. So we kind of met once, and it was coincidentally second time. Very, very kind people, super sweet people. And more we start talking, they were just like, hey, you guys want to come? I think they realized we couldn't really afford a lot, and they were inviting us for lunch. They took us for lunch, and they would bring some treats for my son. And we kind of connected with them through that type of random, I guess, situation, and became friends. And they were staying in San Francisco for a couple of years. And they said they loved the city and they always enjoy coming there. And so they were actually living, I think it was in November or December of, I don't know, the second year where we lived in San Francisco, when we lived in San Francisco. They were going back to Utah, and they just invited us. They said, why can't you just rent a car? And we didn't have a car, of course, and rent a car and just come and visit us for Christmas. And then we're like, oh, well, how far is it? And how long is it? How much would gas cost? All the details, right? So we actually we couldn't do it when they invited, but we did a little bit later. And they were actually in Arizona as a second home. They had a home, and they said, hey, I know you live in San Francisco. It's a very, very expensive city. For you guys, you're struggling financially, employment-wise. Why don't you try Utah? Maybe Utah will be a good state, good home for you to raise your family. It is. America is not all like San Francisco. You should really try to come to visit us. You can stay in our house for 3 months because we live in Arizona now. We went for wintertime to Arizona. And they offered us to live for free. They said you're welcome to eat any food they had. They had a storage full of pantry, lots of food, and see whether you can find job there, and they invited us and was super, super kind to do that. So we took a chance. We thought, okay, well, we rented place months to months anyway. We don't lose anything. That if things don't work out in Utah, we always can come back to this crappy studio in San Francisco. So that's how we came here, and the house was beautiful in Clearfield. We ended up in Utah, and that way we pretty much got very, very old car. They let us use the old car, and they I'm sorry, we didn't have driver's license or anything. We actually couldn't use the car for first 2-3 months. And then we found job here in grocery stores, and my husband was working at night. I was working during daytime, so we don't need to spend money on daycare. So yeah, and then more we got money. I needed transportation, and I need to. I bought a bike, and wintertime I just rode my bike to work, and that's how we started in Utah. As you know, we're still here, so we're super happy. That's another. When I told you I started in Weber State, I had no clue what I was doing. I was just going from class to class. Didn't know what does A mean. Our rating grades, it's 3, 4, 5. 5 is the best, which is an A, right, in American education. So I needed to learn. And again, I needed to learn what grade is B a good grade. Oh, B is I needed to equate that to my number to 4. B is not too bad. But then you have B plus, B minus, and then you have A minus, and it's based on the percentage. So there are a lot of things I needed to learn come in Weber State. So it was super interesting how easy it was to start universities in colleges in America, as long as you have money to pay. In my country, education was for free, which everything was based on whether you're going to pass those. Remember, we talked about those 4 tests, entrance tests, which were like super, super difficult and huge competition, right? They choose anyone who gets A and versus getting Bs, right? 5 or 4, right? So here I was surprised. You pay tuition and you start your classes. And I'm like, wow, there's no entrance exams. They don't evaluate you. You just go to any classes you want to take, general classes, right? So my first exciting thing was English, right? I was excited finally to take English class because I've never had that opportunity because financially we were super tight. And I went to English class, and the professor, realizing I'm actually a foreigner, can't really speak English that well, very broken at that point, right? And then my notes were horrible, and on exams or essays, and I realized quickly I need to start with English second language program. And they tested me, and my level was pretty much beginners. I needed to start from the beginning. So that was actually super nice that I had an opportunity to start with English second language program here. And they told me as I progressed to next level, I could eventually take other general classes so I can go ahead and be comfortable to do that. So Weber State, I love Weber State. I got my undergrad in accounting here because I thought, oh, maybe numbers going to be so easy for me. Maybe, because math is not that hard. Um, I I just settled for accounting degree, and it was the teaching aspect, seeing professors, comparing them to my own country professors. It was different. It was super, super different. Um, Journal classes were easy for me, but I always use dictionary, the physical dictionary. And again, Jake, I didn't have cell phone. We didn't have those, and I didn't have computer at home. You know, um, journal classes were okay for me, but then upper level classes really, really were hard for me. Now you're taking finance, you're taking business classes, you're taking logistics, you're taking statistics, you're taking, I don't know, I can't remember other other examples of, law, two business law, courses. I struggled so much, and some professors did not let me use dictionary. That was super, super hurtful because no matter how much I tried to explain, this is English, Russian, Russian, English dictionary, they would not let me use dictionary. And it became super difficult for me, and it took me a long time to go through my undergrad degree. Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while, but you know what? I graduated. I was so proud of myself. I felt like I had a PhD, doctorate, or I don't know, I graduated from law school, or it felt that important. And going to master's program, it was very, very enjoyable. By then, I had already spoke enough and learned enough, and still, of course, had some struggles, but I really enjoyed master's program as well. So yeah. Um, my oldest son was born in, when we immigrated. When we escaped Russia and we went to Bulgaria and France, if you remember. So my oldest son was born in Bulgaria, and I have two boys. And second child, our youngest one, was born here. So of course they went to school, right? And it's a best way for foreigners to learn culture, public system, education when you have kids starting school. So I would try every Friday, I would try to go talk to teachers about my boys' kindergarten, first grade, third grade, and see how are they doing. And I think teachers were pretty much annoyed by me because I thought it was pretty common in my culture just to go and check what's going on. And then I think my boys were pretty much annoyed by me. They didn't want me to go to see teachers, right? So one thing I want to tell you, I was impressed. I always enjoyed as a foreigner coming to this country because we were deprived from religion. I never touched Bible. I never knew anything about Christianity or even Islam or other like different type of Christianity, Catholics, LDS. Now we're in Utah, right? So religion was something we were never allowed, and were never allowed even to touch Bible. I strongly believed kids and anyone should have that exposure. I didn't have that exposure. And I thought back then, at least I thought, if Christianity or Bible itself, doesn't matter whether you're Catholic or Baptist or LDS, if it's supposed to bring peace and kindness and teach you how respect and how to treat each other, I think it's a great thing. And I was so confused why Soviet Union was so against that religion. It's a beautiful thing. Back then, that was my concept of understanding about the about Bible, and I loved how each president would God bless America. It was always about blessing Americans. God bless America. It was a phrase it always kept in my head. And I thought, I learned in America in public schools, actually, they don't teach Bible. And I wanted my boys to have some kind of that kindness, peaceful, something what I was deprived from, but they could be exposed to some kind of a Bible study or religion school. So I actually, my husband and I, we agreed to send them to Layton Christian Academy. So that's how they started there. And that was a one impact. My boys didn't like that school. I'll be honest with you. Every time they begged me to switch to public school. Eventually, we actually did. I want to try public school too. It was a horrible experience, but we did. So that was one of the impact, my experience, right? My background, I forced kind of on my boys where it wasn't something they were choosing or it wasn't something they had interest in. And other things when it comes to academia, homework, my boys would always come home and say, they have no homework. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any homework? I went through Weber State. And I'm going through, actually, I was back then taking classes while my kids were in public school. I'm like, you got to have homework. What are you talking about? They're like, no, we finished in school. I'm like, well, in school, what do you mean in school? You got to finish your classwork in school. So I had a hard time with that. And my boy's like, Mom, please, ask my teacher if you don't believe me. Well, I did. And teacher's like, yeah, we have extra time. We allow kids to finish their homework at school. And then I like, boys will come home and I would create homework for them. I would create math problems or writing English something or reading. Well, my oldest one loved reading. It was easy. It was the youngest one. He was rebelling. So I was pushing. I was forcing. Again, it was my background. Soviets were really, really strict and always were about education, education, and education. That's how they always forced. That's how I grew up. So I guess the experience living here and saying I have no homework, it didn't settle well. My boys hated me, but that was another impact, that's how I forced a lot of things. And my boys will always say, we're not in Russia, we're in America, Mom, we're in America, don't do this. This is not Russia. So, yeah, those are just few cute examples, I guess. They refused. They didn't want to do anything with Russia. They're like, are you kidding me, Mom? I don't want to. I ended up, like my Weber State English professor, I became really good friends with her. She was in second ESL program, and she was Spanish speaker. Her origin, her language was primary language Spanish, and English was as a second. She always told me, don't worry about your kids' English. I'm like, what do you mean? They gotta speak English because we speak Russian in house, in our home. I'm afraid it's gonna impact my boys. When they go to school, they need to know English. So I was all worried about English. She was constantly telling me, you need to worry about the Russian. They will pick up English super, super fast, and you'll see that. Well, I didn't believe that, right? So I was trying to speak English, broken English, and that. And then when I understood what she meant, I started encouraging my boys, hey, let's speak Russian. they didn't want it. They're like, no. My oldest one was like refusing. Everything has to do with Russia. He's like, no, no. So they do understand Russian. My oldest one understands Russian, but has hard time speaking.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest one actually speaks well, kind of 50%, and he understands much, much better. So, but now they're like, hey, we want to learn Russian, Mom. Can you speak Russian to us? And like, here you go. When you were younger, I struggled with you. I wanted you to learn Russian for this reason. Yeah, they do. They do okay. So they do okay. I think it's great. I enjoyed being here, and thank you. Um, it just always nice to share my experience coming to this country, because I think I do want to end with something. What I really enjoy and what I love about this country became my country. I never regret that I left Russia, and especially now you see what's going on with war situation, and that country never been stable. And I enjoy living in this country. I feel like I earned my citizenship here. I earned everything I have here. I started from zero, and I'm just grateful for the opportunities America gives us, government gives us, people gives us, society. We really have a wonderful country here. It's sometimes hard to believe for a lot of people, and I basically say, I have one suggestion. Can you just go to Russia for 1 week and you will see what I mean? People are always amazed why I'm so positive about America. This is a country gave me so many opportunities and my life, and freedom for my boys and freedom for myself. I think this country is great, and I appreciate you asking me so many questions specific to my transition. How did I come here? How did I start life here? Because I think it's so important to remind generation like you maybe, or who was born here, how this country is built on immigration, and how hard, working hard, you can achieve, you can live your life, you can build your happiness, you can become who you want to be. It just, America gives so many opportunities. We just need to see them and open doors for these opportunities, and don't be afraid. So thank you for having me over here, and I really appreciate being here. And good luck to you, Jake.